Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gaming with me, Tony Moan. We are here today to crown my favorite game of 2015, to put a name to my game of the year for 2015, and that game is CD Projekt's The Witcher 3. The Witcher 3 was a game that I had an excessive, probably unhealthy amount of hype and excitement for, but thankfully, CD Projekt delivered big time, presenting me with a game that not only held up to my expectations, but went beyond that. The Witcher 3, to me, holds the crown for the greatest open-world RPG that we have ever seen. It's one of my all-time favorite role-playing franchises at this point, and The Witcher 3 was simply the next step in making the franchise better than it already was. Huge leap forward from what we saw in The Witcher 2. Kind of CD Projekt's thing to just say, you know, how can we go up 13 notches? We're going to need to make a bigger knob because we're going to go up so many notches. That's really their tradition. And you look at the difference between The Witcher 1 and The Witcher 2, and the difference between The Witcher 2 and The Witcher 3, and I think that example, that metaphor, is made very clear. They're always looking to go above and beyond and improve what they've done with their games, iteration after iteration, on a whole new level, far greater than anyone else, in my opinion, is doing with any of their sequels. And that is just one of the reasons that I fell in love with The Witcher 3. The biggest part of it, I think, for me, though, we're going to talk a lot about, you know, the elements that I love in the game here. You guys are seeing some footage from a Witcher contract that I just recently did. Still playing the game. There's still that much stuff to do in The Witcher 3 that I'm still doing brand new Witcher contracts. And a lot of that has to come down to the world design of The Witcher 3, which is one of the reasons why I feel The Witcher 3 is one of the greatest open world RPGs. The world design, to me, is just, it set a bar. It set a new bar from what we should come to expect from open world RPGs. Not only is the world itself exceptionally detailed, it's massive. It's both of those things, and that's something that rarely goes hand in hand. Usually when you have a very large open world, it's very shallow, there's not a lot of detail in it, the world design doesn't feel that, you know, well done. Things have been cut, corners have been cut, sacrifices have been made in order to make the scale as large as it could be. That is not the case with The Witcher 3 at all. Not only is the world massive and broke up into several different components, all huge within their own right, but it's deep, it's rich, it's detailed, and it is well designed. Honestly, the locations, the environments in The Witcher 3 are some of the best that I've ever had the opportunity to spend time in. They feel so alive, they feel so real. It's easy to forget that they were crafted in a machine by a human being, and that's exactly what I want in my fantasy RPG, and that's exactly what The Witcher 3 delivered. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about the open world, because I think there's one aspect that was very important to me, and that was a sense of travel being part of the adventure, part of the journey, part of the enjoyment of the experience. In a lot of games, you only travel to a location once, and then after that, you have the ability to fast travel. The Witcher 3 still has a fast travel system, but for me personally, I always felt the want, the urge to travel from location to location on foot or by horseback. You know, when we watch a lot of really great films, the Lord of the Rings comes to mind, the journey from point A to point B is often part of the storytelling. It's part of the adventure. It's part of the focus of the entire film. Few games are able to capture that. And honestly, when I think, you know, try and think back to games that have done that, that have made me want to travel on foot or on horseback from one point to the other, because I just enjoyed being in the world, there are very few. I'd have to say Skyrim and The Witcher 3 are the only two games that I've ever honestly really felt that way. I almost never use the fast travel system in The Witcher 3 unless it is absolutely necessary, or if I'm simply going to sell some equipment or gear. But when heading out on a mission or a Witcher contract, it's a part of the experience for me to go from point A to point B on horseback. Like I said, the adventure, the travel itself, you know, navigating through the forest and following the roads, that's part of the experience for me. It's part of what makes the Witcher 3 so enjoyable as an RPG. Few games can say that they have done that for me. It is very much a reason that I love the open world that CD Projekt has actually gone and created here. Now, The Witcher 3, outside of its open world, this massive thing, you know, is also a story-driven game. something that I feel few developers can claim to have done well in both aspects. Usually a game is massively, you know, has a big open world, the story falls short. I mean, CD Projekt just nailed it both ways. Are there imperfections in the storytelling? Blah, blah. Yeah, we could go on about that all day, but as a whole, the experience is dead on. It's a great open world game. It has exploration. It has a ridiculous amount of content in the form of side quests and pieces of gear, you know, items to put together, the crafting system, and then on top of that, you've got a great story with fully voiced characters, NPCs, all just bringing the entire world together. Few games can claim that. Like, to me, it is still a game that blows my mind. The fact that they were able to build this, to make this happen at all, is just so utterly impressive. And I think to overlook what The Witcher 3 has done is to overlook one of, you know, the greatest achievements we've seen in open world RPGs. That's honestly how I feel about The Witcher 3. Now, I know that may sound obsessively positive, but guess what? It's my Game of the Year video. I can be as obsessively positive as I want to. And that was actually one of the problems I think that I had when I did my first impressions for The Witcher. I had played about 30 hours of the game at that point, and I actually had people who, you know, I think felt that I was being too positive, that I hadn't pointed out enough negatives. But honestly, for me, it was just one of those games. It is still one of those games that I find it incredibly hard to point out actual negatives, you know, things that affect the player on a regular basis. I would have to start nitpicking to like the nth degree, like, oh, the horse gets a little bit irritating when it stops walking for no reason. Geralt's movement can be a little bit more precise sometimes. That's really it. There's just so many things the game is doing well so much of the time that I don't ever feel the need to focus on any of those components. I'm too busy, you know, in awe at a certain environmental design piece, or a, you know, enjoying a random quest that I've come upon, a random encounter, or hunting down a unique piece of armor, or, you know, the blueprints to craft a unique piece of armor. There's just so many things going on that are hitting all of the right switches for me as a gamer when I look for a game like this, which to me is very much about escapism. I think open world RPGs for me capture that element of escapism, video game escapism, better than any other game. They put me inside of a character, they put me inside of a location, large or small, and they just tell me to be a part of it. And, you know, being Geralt, I think, was another thing that CD Projekt just did so well, because you know who Geralt is, you know his sort of motivations, you know the type of person he is, but within the story, within the decisions that you can make as Geralt, you are able to shape him. You're able to make him your Geralt without ever modifying his actual facial, you know, shape, or making him into another character. You know, something like Mass Effect did, where we're all Commander Shepard, but your Commander Shepard looks very different from mine. No, we're all Geralt. Really, the ability to change the way that he is as a character, despite him being one individual character, it was just so well done, that it was very easy to become a part of him as a character. And I think what CD Projekt did with Geralt is a great example of, you know, having a voiced character, but still making the player feel like they are a part of that character, like they are Geralt, putting them in Geralt's shoes, and still allowing them to make decisions and not feel like they're just being sort of pulled along on the back of a, you know, the back of a wagon throughout the course of the story. No, you are deciding how the story goes. You're deciding who you make relationships with and who you break relationships with throughout the course of the story. And of course, having a really great supporting cast full of wonderful and colorful characters helps bring that whole world, that whole realization together. The game just nails it. It nails it again and again. And the crazy thing is, I'm making The Witcher 3 my game of the year, and I haven't finished the main story. And it's not because I didn't want to or because I found it boring. It's because I'm too busy doing other things in the game. I'm too busy, you know, 100%ing, clearing out all the islands, exploring every inch of here and there. And a lot of it was more of a personal time constraint thing with me, whereas a YouTuber, I'm looking to move forward and to cover other games, so The Witcher 3 had to be put on the back burner. Luckily, with the holidays coming up, I'm playing it again, and I'm so happy. I think that's one of the biggest personal testaments for me as to why I love, and that I can tell that The Witcher 3 means so much to me, is that I literally think about the game like every weekend that I'm not playing it. Every time I sit down and I'm playing games in the little bit of free time that I have to play them just for myself, not for the channel, not for any sort of impressions video or any sort of documentation, or analysis, I'm wanting to play The Witcher 3, and then I'm usually going and playing The Witcher 3. It was a game that gives you so much to do, that shows the player very early on, there is a lot here. There's a lot you're going to be able to do. There's a lot that you don't realize you're going to be able to do yet. But it never made me feel like I was rushed to go through the main story. This is something that I always have a problem with open world games. I almost always feel like I'm forced, or, you know, mentally forced to go and complete the story so I can have this sort of sense of relief so I can go and finish exploring the rest of the world. That's never the case with The Witcher. The story is there, the characters are there. You kind of just go at your own pace. You do what you want, you explore what you want, you let it all happen in your own time, and you're never punished for, you know, taking 5 or 6 hours to get to a quest, or 13 hours to get to a quest. You know, that's never the instance. You can go and do what you want when you want. And that's awesome. That's something that's more of a personal thing, I feel, and more of a mental issue that I have with open world games. I know other people feel the same way, but like I said, it was a positive that The Witcher 3 was able to push me away from the story and just say, just go and have fun, don't worry about it, it'll be here when you come back. Now, I could probably go on for hours and hours about all the smaller details, you know, the fact that the game is utterly stunning, even as you're seeing it on the Xbox One. Honestly, one of the best looking games on a next generation console right now, no doubt about that. Yes, it's 30 FPS, but it still looks fantastic. The audio visual presentation of The Witcher 3 is just, again, it's remarkable. It's exceptional, it's remarkable, it's magnificent, it's glorious, it's beautiful, it's stunning. It's every uber positive word that you can think of slamming into one. The music, you know, the environmental effects, it all just makes you a part of the world. And that's all very, very special. What I want to ask from you guys, of course, as we come to an end of 2015, is if you had to pick one game to be your favorite game of 2015, regardless of genre, regardless of platform, what would that game be? And I would like to hear extensive responses from you guys. If you want to go into detail, if you don't want to go into detail, whatever it is, I just want to hear what your game of 2015 was, why it was special to you, and why you feel that it deserves that title on a personal level. To me, that's very much what the Game of the Year sort of thing has always been about. It's not about, you know, sitting there and trying to, in a very, you know, factual manner, decide why this game is better than that. It's about looking back at 2015 and remembering what game you enjoyed most. It should be an individual thing. And I think when we look at Game of the Year in that way, then everybody sort of wins. And, you know, everyone gets to respect and appreciate the games that they feel deserving of that appreciation, of that respect, in whatever year we're looking at. So if you guys have any other questions for me regarding The Witcher 3, regarding my thoughts and as to why I chose to make it my game of the year, let me know down in the comment section below. Be sure to share your game of 2015. I'm gonna go play The Witcher 3. That's exactly what I'm gonna do right now. I'm gonna go be Geralt, and I will see you in the next one.